Welcome, everybody, to our Trans Wellness Ontario Family Day panel. We're so excited to have you folks with us. So we'll just take a moment now to introduce ourselves. My name is Sydney. My pronouns are they, them, near, and I am the Education Coordinator and Non-Binary Transition Guide at Trans Wellness Ontario. And I use the terms queer, trans, and non-binary, as well as asexual, to describe myself. And I'm going to pass things over to Derrick.
Hello, everyone. So Derrick Biso here. I use they, them pronouns exclusively. I'm the volunteer coordinator at Trans Wellness Ontario. And the words I use to describe myself, I'm queer, I'm trans, I'm non-binary. And I used to say I'm gay, and I feel like a bit more like a lesbian now. So I'm still on a journey figuring out what words are right for me. But those are the words that I'll use today. Thanks so much. Could I pass it over to Chris?
Hello, I'm Chris Brouillard-Coyle, and I am the chaplain here at Trans Wellness Ontario. I use pronouns they, them. I would identify myself as gender non-conforming. I prefer to be more butch than princess by far, but I also see myself as an ally and a parent, as I happen to be the parent of Sydney. Back to you.
Excellent. So we're just going to start off with a few questions for today's Family Day panel discussion. And our first question is, what has your experiences with family been like? And I'm going to pass things over to Derrick.
Thank you so much. So briefly, it's been mixed. I've had, good experiences and some really difficult experiences with my own family. I'm very fortunate that my mother kind of saw me very early on as perhaps a very queer child who she loved and adored and thought, you're something special, kiddo. I'm looking forward to seeing what you become. And so I've always had love, affection, and a champion sort of from my mom in that way. But my father really struggled with his own internalized homophobia, queerphobia, and transphobia, and really shamed me for so many aspects of myself and denied me that sort of freedom and creativity to explore who I was. So I felt very restricted in many ways, and also a lot of fear because of how violent he was as a man. Big, scary, loud man. So it took a long time for me to really heal a lot of those wounds. And there's some family members who have helped in that journey, just through little things that perhaps aren't the best things, but just signals of awareness and acceptance. And then I have other family members who I really see love me for me, use my pronouns, know I'm queer as can be, and big old trans person, and welcome me into their families and to meet their children and to be a part of their lives. So I'm very fortunate that I do have a lot of really good experiences with some members of my family, and I see their growth and their own development. And then with others, there's been a lot of difficulty and sort of a lifelong kind of growth. And one last thing I'll say is that I have maintained a relationship with my father because I do love him and I see him grow and change and become kind of a better version of himself, I suppose. But at the same time, I've allowed for a lot of distance and for myself to be able to build a life that I'm able to be myself and feel so comfortable with who I am and not really worry about his opinions or judgments if there's something that he feels or holds. And I kind of have a relationship a little bit more on my terms, it feels like now, that feels really good. And so I'm happy to have that today. And I just wanted to share sort of that own development and relationship where I'm holding on, but it's for me and it's in ways that feel good to me. And it's working out, it seems, for both of us. So could I pass it over perhaps to Chris?
Sure, thank you for that. Well, I'm coming at it from a slightly different perspective. Yes, I've sort of was a tomboy as a kid, and that wasn't an issue for my family. When I first learned to drive, I was taught how to change a tire just like my brothers were. My brothers did some cooking and I did some cooking. We had a bit of fluidity in our family where we could take on sort of the non-traditional roles. And my parents were fine with that. I'm also one who's has a very strong personality, and my parents embrace that. So when I would challenge things, they would listen and they would learn. So the interesting thing is I come from a very Catholic family. My father is a deacon in the Catholic Church, and yet we had some really strong conversations about the rights of queer individuals very early on, and they listened to me. they would ask questions. And when I challenged things, it really gave them a chance to learn and grow. And so when we came to this place where they have now a grandchild who identifies as queer and trans, they're in a different place than they would have been years prior to that. Because even as young as a teenager, I could push them and challenge them, and they listened and respected where I was coming from. And it created a sense of openness. Did that mean that we didn't have any problems? No, there are some issues, and they are definitely related to faith, especially with one of my siblings. But there is space still for lots of conversation, lots of love, lots of acceptance, and that's really important. As I said, we don't fall into those traditional masculine and feminine roles in our household, and that's given some space for some freedom. And now I'm going to let Sydney, I guess, talk about me.
Great, thank you. So yeah, I was fortunate that I was always raised in a household where I was taught that it didn't matter who I loved as long as they made me happy. And I was very fortunate to have that experience. So I always felt free to kind of explore myself and my sexuality, and then later my gender, once I realized that it was possible to be other genders than just what I was assigned at birth. And I realized that in high school. And, just discovering things like pronouns, confirming that my name felt right, those types of things, just a continual type of journey that I felt free to explore. When I first, I guess, officially came out was when I was 15, and it was New Year's Day of 2016. And the night before, I'd had a friend sleep over, and I asked her out, and she said yes. We had our first kiss at midnight. It was very cute. And then afterwards, when she left the next day, I mentioned kind of casually to my mom, oh yeah, this person is my girlfriend now. And my mom's response was, okay, no more sleepovers with her. And that was kind of it. And then we continually had a running joke where I would be like, oh, can I have a sleepover with this person? Can I have a sleepover with this person from there on out? Because I had friends of so many different genders and so many expressions and so many sexualities, so it was kind of like that ongoing continual conversation as I was figuring things out. As, my mom mentioned, we did have issues with some people in the extended family where we're just not able to see them anymore. But there have been some folks in the extended family who are starting to be understanding, and some who are continually kind of working and everything. At Thanksgiving this past year, I did officially state, everybody knew, but I officially stated hey, I'm non-binary, these are the terms, these are the pronouns that I use. And in particular, addressing my aunts and uncles, I said, instead of niece or nephew, I want you to use Sib kid, which is a gender neutral term. But one of my uncles misheard that as Sid kid, which was just really cute, and I'm okay with that as well. So that was just kind of a really nice moment. And he was continually making an effort to, use my pronouns and to use that particular term and stuff. So similar, mixed experiences with family, but the ones who are closest to me, my chosen family, have been absolutely amazing. Okay. So our next question is, what does the idea of chosen family mean to you? And I'm going to pass that over to Chris.
Sure. When I thought about chosen family, the reality is that I have chosen a family when I chose my life partner, my spouse, the person that has affirmed me and allowed me the freedom to truly be who I am. And really and truly, that has created a new family, of which, of course, Sydney is a product of that. And that family is founded in those ideals of supporting one another, however we are, whoever we are. Before I met my life partner, I had a friend. I was at a point where I'm kind of I may never have a life partner. I'm just so weird. And you know what? I'm at the point where I can be okay with that. I just want to fully live into who I am. And this friend of mine said to me, when you find somebody, you'll find somebody that will compromise their dreams for you, and you will compromise your dreams for me, and for that person. And that's really how our life has evolved. the affirmation and support we give one another, um, you know, everybody has, those of us who have partnered up and get married, that's a chosen family. When you have friends that you continue to connect with, those are chosen families as well. I have somebody that we were roomies back in university, and we are still really good friends and visit each other periodically. And her joke is that, you know, when we're 80, the second bedroom in her apartment will be for me. And I'm like, well, I kind of have a spouse. Well, that they'll be gone. They'll be gone. But it, you know, it's those people that are the ones that are most affirming and considerate and caring about who we are and how we support one another. What do you think about that, Derrick?
Well, I was thinking, I was like, I agree, I agree, I agree. You know, a lot of shared experiences, Chris. And I was thinking as you were talking about my own sort of like um, the different chosen families I've kind of belonged to, right? Because I think, you know, even in high school, I had at that time my boys, you know, which we had some butch women as well, a part of the boys, but we all kind of were the boys. It was very, you know, there's way too much masculinizing of everybody still happening in the world. You know, guys is not a gender neutral term, boys is not a gender neutral term, but the way it was used anyway during high school and that kind of clique I was a part of. And there was that sense of chosen family to some degree. These are people I just felt more aligned with that understood me better. And, you know, gosh, no, now, you know, who I am now, this very embodied femme, queer, trans, proud socialist, all the rest, like, not, I don't think the same person who I was then, and I don't think the relationships are the same. And so I have different chosen families now, right? And I relate so much to what you said, Chris, about having certain people I've met where it's like, I'll steal this from Anna Green Gables and Lucy Montgomery, like a bosom friend, you know, someone I just hold so much in my heart who has like this space that they take up, and I welcome it. I welcome it. It's mutual. And I'm so fortunate. I feel like I have a lot of those friends who I just feel kindred spirit with and a deep sense of love and relationship with that, you know, hopefully, yeah, if we could live together, that'd be great. I think we'd have a great time, you know? And that's what it is, right? It's kind of those relationships that are familiar, but they're healthier. They're more supportive and affirming. They're more aligned. There's more shared common ground. And often there's a overlaying of relationships where there's interest and shared work and ethics and morals and life experiences and maybe intimacy even, right? Because that happens where, you know, we snuggle, we get close, we love each other, and we provide intimacy in ways that, you know, often has been sort of said like, oh, that's adultery, you know, and not taken as a way of actually engaging in the world by having a lot of really intimate supportive relationships, deep friendships, right? Lifelong supportive relations. So chosen family to me, and the idea of it is really these close communities, these close intimate circles. And sometimes they're very personal one-on-one. Other times they are a mutual group of friends, right? It's kind of different for each of us. And I think we all have a little bit of both, or hopefully we can craft a bit of both throughout a lifetime. And then just to touch on it briefly, you know, partnership, because I am so fortunate too that I'm in a very good relationship with my wife, Janet. And, you know, what you said, Chris, I related to so much about, you know, I married myself like 2 or 3 months before I met Janet. I was like, I'm so messy and I'm so me. And me is a very particular thing. And I love me. I am so precious. I see myself in the same way I think my mother sees me. And thank gosh she saw me in such a way, right? Of just deep love and like, you got to see yourself through, baby. You got a life to live. And so I was there, and then I'm out dancing with Janet, you know, and hips collide and rest, you know, kissing under the stars. It's history, right? And here we are in Windsor 6 years later. And I've never had such a good relationship. I've never been so supported. I've never felt like I've wanted to give up so much for someone, and also seen somebody give up so much for me or give me so much of them, right? So, you know, I feel so blessed, and I'll be devastated, you know, if it ever comes to the point where it's like, oh, geez, I got to keep going. They're gone. You know, it's like, I guess I'll move in, but I'm going to be a wreck forever. And nothing will be ever the same, you know. And luckily, we've built a family here with our little cat, Eleanor, and so many friends and beloveds, you know, you two included, right? There's such a really nice connected circle of people we've met here who, you know, are our chosen family here in Windsor, and who really are familiar to us, who we feel familiar to. And at this point, 6 years down the road, you know, people have seen us grow. People have seen us change. People have seen us go through things together and as people ourselves. And that's so powerful. And that's something I so value. And, that's what chosen family really means to me, is building those similar familiar relationships, but just ones that are just so much more, I think, genuine and true to us and who we are. And thank goodness we can find them, because it helps, it helps in this lifetime. Sydney, do you have anything to add or share kind of to your own thoughts and on what we've said?
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I would say, chosen family is a lot of what you build yourself. It's a group of people or individual person who celebrates and honors you for who you are and lifts you up and is there for you through like the dark times, the good times, and everything in between. And, similarly, I've had the chance to build so many chosen families throughout high school, lots of folks who explored with me as they were exploring themselves in terms of gender and sexuality, and a lot of folks that I'm still in contact with today, especially as they're involved, in my university programs and stuff. So I still get to see them on a regular basis, which is really nice. And then I see, of course, like the folks at Trans Wellness Ontario, we're kind of our own little chosen family there, our amazing team there, which is absolutely incredible. It's so great to be part of such an amazing group of people who just like are living our best lives and supporting one another and supporting other folks in finding, those social spaces, those communities where they can be themselves. And then for me, I have a queer platonic partner as well. So queer platonic represents basically, it's a type of relationship that confuses people who are cisgender and heterosexual, because it's not quite romantic and it's not just platonic, it's somewhere in between. So we've been officially, like we kind of put the label as queer platonic on about like maybe 7 months ago. But we've known each other for almost 3 years now, and have really just like connected. And this is somebody who I can consistently rely on, despite the fact that this is long distance as well. So I rarely see them in person. It's always nice when I am able to, but we video chat all the time. We watch movies together and either cry together or roast how bad the movie is together, depending on which movie we're seeing, but those types of situations and those like types of encounters, which is just really meaningful. And that's the idea of chosen family, is supporting one another throughout all of the times, like leaning on one another and just really like affirming and celebrating every aspect of what family means. Okay. So our next question is, how can family members serve as effective allies to their trans and queer loved ones? And I'm going to pass it over to Derrick.
It's a great question. And I think it's, particular to each person and each dynamic and the particulars of a person. But I think one thing that I can say from my own personal experience and what would really have been great for me and what was great for me is being given space to be whoever I was, whatever that meant. And that took time to figure out, and being encouraged to figure it out on my own time and with whatever I had available to me. I think having information readily available, right? So parents need to be informed. Parents need to be comfortable, talking about queer and trans stuff, sex stuff. It's life, honey. Like it really is. And there's a lot of great resources now that weren't there before. And there's no excuse, to really make it a priority, because it's going to make sure that you are being the best parent you can be and your child has the best opportunities that they have. And also, just to know that being queer and trans is like natural and sacred, just like every other life on earth, and this great floating rock of miracles, and what a gift we are. I've met some parents who really put better words to it than I could, I think, recognizing that as their child shares their true self, what a gift that is, and how it welcomes them to be their true self. It's really an open invitation that, you get to be you too, because I'm being me. And that's really beautiful, and what a gift we're giving to our families when we do that. And I want to thank, the parents in my life I've met of other children and how well they've role modeled how to be great parents. Just being supportive, being confused, being honest about being confused, being honest about being scared, reaching out for support and getting counseling and support, because the reality is, we're going through our own stuff as a queer and trans kid. And I know that our parents and our family members have their own stuff they're going through, but often they're not going to go deal with it on their own. They're coming to us to process it for them or to resolve it for them as if we're a source of problems for them. When in reality, they're just going through their own response and reactions that needs to be dealt with, generally through a professional practice or some really great friends who can help you, and really help guide you to a place of love and acceptance, right? And I think that's really where I think the most important work is done, is just love and acceptance. Understanding can come. It may never, it doesn't have to. Goodness knows if I understand, but I certainly love and accept myself, and I know that that's what's going to keep me alive. That's going to keep me shining, doing all the good that I'm doing. And as I know, there is nothing wrong with being queer. There's nothing wrong with being trans. It's actually an amazing experience that I would welcome anyone to have. It's like one of those things that I would wish it on people, I guess, as long as it wasn't a queer phobic and transphobic society we lived in. I'd say it's a great time. I'm having a good time. I love who I am, and what a beautiful journey it's been. And so I think, families can create space in their hearts. They can join their children and their family members on this journey. It's a journey we're all on, really, together. Better understanding how creative we can be about who we are, especially when we're not facing restrictions and constrictions placed on us by others. That's all about being ashamed of being something perhaps that's beautiful and amazing and it's true for who we are. And I think having fun, I think that's a big thing too. It's just enjoying the journey and stuff. If just show up and have fun and make it kind of your own thing. And if it's hard, just be honest about that and go get the help. I think that's the big thing. And then let time pass at times too. I think that's one thing that is important just to finish on, is that there's certain things for us as queer and trans people that for some of us, it's a negotiable thing, whatever that may be, pronouns, language, the way that we have to accommodate other people and their values and prejudice and whatnot. Some of us, we can't negotiate that. And I think both are fair. I think, there's reasons for both. And I think everyone's making a decision that does feel best for them. But I just want to put a lot of respect there for people who just say, you know what, this is a non-negotiable for me. I have too much self-respect to put myself through this. And really, it's not a big ask. And I think that's where I want to finish, is that I think so many of the things we're asking for are the simplest of things that I understand people are having a hard time with. Doesn't mean a thing, though. They can deal with that on their own time. They can go get the help, just like I have to go get my help to deal with the difficult things that I struggle with, whether or not they're actually difficult things for other people to struggle with or not. I'm struggling. I'm going to go get help. The reality is, being treated with respect, my name, my pronouns, and honestly, just be given the space not to be treated with prejudice and stigma. That's not too much to ask for. And I think that's a bare minimum that, beyond that, I can ask for more and demand more, and I deserve it. I deserve more than even just that base level of respect and decency. Just like we all do. Just like we all do. Just like every single of us really deserve better than what we probably are getting right now. And I recognize that, and that's really how I kind of advocate for it, right? Is that we're all deserving of a lot more humanity and options and opportunities to be ourselves, and whatever that means, and let us figure that out. But of course, that takes time and energy, right? And there's a lot of pressure just to be busy right now and just be what you're told to be. So I recognize so many of these dynamics, and I think that the love and acceptance part is a really big thing, particularly for people to love and accept queer and trans people. Not to expect queer and trans people to love and accept prejudice and bigotry and intolerable, behaviors. Because I think that too often it's turned against us. And I really don't have much tolerance for it anymore, because I don't think it's fair. I just don't think it's fair. Right. So I think I'll finish there, and I'll pass it back either to Chris and then maybe to Sydney. Thank you so much for asking and giving me time to really air all that out.
Yeah, I was hoping you're going to leave me last, right? Yeah, as it's so important. I actually feel very, very blessed that I had parents that were very understanding and allowed me to explore myself, and had humility. And as a parent, I think that's vital, to have humility. I know that I have not been perfect in the ways that I've engaged with Sydney's journey of self-exploration. I know I've made mistakes, but I've learned so much in the journey. And it feels so precious to know that there are so many of Sydney's friends who will tell me how much they value that they feel safe and accepted in our home. They feel that this is a safe space, and that even when they're not feeling safe in their own homes, they've always felt accepted in our home. And it's creating that space and meeting everyone where they're at. Like the gifts of these people that Sydney has brought in our life, this gift that Sydney is to our lives is so wonderful and so incredible and so great. It's hard not to see everyone as having wonderful gifts that we have to create space for and protect, because the world is going to say things to those who are queer and trans that suck. It's not fair. It's not right. And to be able to be one that can step in between and say, yeah, no, this is not how we should treat other people. These people are amazing. And if you would get past your prejudice, you would see that too, that there is so many gifts that they have. Good grief. When we step back and allow ourselves to be humble, allow ourselves to learn, allow us to seek those who can teach us, so we don't have to put the pressure all the time on those that we know that are queer and trans, and allow ourselves just to love people for who they are. That is what we can do who call ourselves allies. Ally is a verb. It's something that actually other people should assign to us. And it's something that we need to work on every single day. I love in our training when we say allyship is like bathing. If you don't do it for a long time, you start to stink. It is a verb, and it's up to us to embody that as much as we can. And if we're doing it well, then people will recognize us as an ally and find safety and affirmation and inclusion in the spaces that we occupy. So, Sydney, you want to say more about that?
Absolutely. I would say one of the biggest key things to emphasize when you're talking about allyship to trans and queer loved ones is recognizing instances of emotional labor, like going to a family gathering where somebody's constantly misgendering us, is using the wrong pronouns, the wrong name, invalidating us. That is emotional labor. And a lot of times people will be like, oh, well, it's family. You've got to go to the wedding. You've got to go to Christmas. You've got to go to whatever. No, you don't. People have the choice to go to whatever space they want to. And if they don't feel safe, they don't feel comfortable in a space, and that's okay. It's your job then as a family member to create an alternative space. So myself and my parents, we haven't gone to kind of our extended family Christmas gatherings for a few years. So one Christmas, we joked about it being like a bye Felicia Christmas. And we just kind of did our own thing. This was before COVID. So we went and played at my grandma's, retirement home, played piano, did some nice little Christmas songs and stuff, made rainbow sugar cookies, that type of thing. Just creating those new traditions and not being afraid to go outside the box, find those new traditions that just really speak to who a person is and help them honor those types of holidays, right? And really just making sure that people know, your queer and trans loved ones know that it's okay if they're not ready to go to a space, if they're never ready to go to a space again because of something they've experienced. And finding those other ways to give them that chosen family, to give them that experience in a way that makes sense for them and honors who they are is really important. And then another thing I want to address, we have a lot of times in the times that I've covered, our reception desk and stuff, I always seem to be covering it when a parent calls. And the parent says, my kid just came out and I have no idea what to do. So we often spend a long time, talking on the phone about, okay, where's the kid at? How can we support the kid? And how can we support you, right, through this journey so that you can effectively support your kid? And a lot of times parents have a lot of guilt where the kid may have said, oh, I've been struggling with this for a few years, and I'm just now telling you. And they feel like it's their fault for not creating that space. And obviously all of us always have to work to create that safe space, letting people know who they are is amazing, who they love is totally okay. But also recognizing that if somebody just isn't ready, they're not ready. And sometimes it takes time to figure out what terms feel right. I know for me, I like to have everything, laid out in a formal list and everything. I know exactly what things mean, all of that stuff, because that's just my personality. And I didn't know terms to describe my gender until I was a teenager. I didn't know that there was trans, that there was non-binary, that there was this whole plethora of different identities and stuff. So it's important to give kids and youth and your children the resources to know what's available to them, but let them come to it in their own time. Is there anybody else who would like to add anything to our discussion today before we wrap up?
One little thing I just want to touch on, Sydney, that you said was just, kind of, yeah, like for some people, it's a really personal, like, oh, like soul searching, existential, maybe space galaxy, like, kind of journey. Where for others, it's like, yes, I see it, I know it, I'll name it, and I'm public about it, and I want everyone to know. And I think, one thing I've come up against is, although for all of us, I think it is personal, it's always personal. One thing we can't get away from, there are political aspects just because of the social dynamic we live in, right? And for so many people, sometimes it's like, well, for some it's just personal. It's like, but it can't be, right? So that's one thing I think, just to recognize that we are, on the front lines of a struggle still for our freedoms, and protecting the hard fought for rights and protections that we do have, which of course doesn't mean our communities are safe or that our relationships are the best. Still working on those things. But I really just want to, again, just kind of, it's such a personal journey and it's such a gift when you're told. And I really think what you said, don't feel guilty that, once the thought just popped in as a question, they weren't talking to you and trying to debrief, right? It's like, wow, you've been taking some time to really think and reflect. God bless, if only we thought and reflected more often, if all of us did that deep thinking, deep consideration, right? I think what a beautiful thing. And I really thought that was a really poignant thing you said, right? Just to really recognize that it's a very personal journey and we're all moving in a way that, as you said, it's with our personalities, it's what feels right and true for us in particular. And just to mind, those feelings and work through those feelings as you have them, because it's okay you have them, not to invalidate them, but just to recognize, right, that you don't have to make yourself feel any more worse than you have to, right? Because we're all on this journey. And I think humor and playfulness is really helpful for all of us, to just be able to recognize, as you said, Chris, we'll fumble, we'll make mistakes. I make mistakes, right? Misgender myself sometimes. Like, it's just the reality of it. And that's just the brain being the brain. It's an organ, right? It sometimes has a little hiccup or falters. And the reality is we have a deep socialization that is very cisgender and heterosexist. And so we have a lot of work to do to exercise that out of us, as well as challenge its continued socialization in our society. So those are some big, kind of like ally advocacy, but hey, that's what we hope for from our families as they level up. I was thinking about this coming in, if I maybe can say this as a final word and actually pull myself back here, is that, for some people, I only expect them to get my pronouns and my name right, even if it's just a coding thing they're doing, where they don't actually interrogate and challenge the assumptions and the prejudice and biases that they hold. I'm getting named and pronoun right at least. And that's something I need. I can't really tolerate it otherwise. And then there's others I see, and it's like, I need more from you because I know you can do more, right? And we need that because I just said that we're on the front lines, right? And as you all kind of highlighted already, we can't do all the work as queer and trans people. We are a minority. We're everywhere all the time forever, but we are a minority right now still in a very heterosexist and cisgender society, right? Although studies show the more freedom we have, the more of us start to sprout because we feel free. We feel free, we can be ourselves. So goodness knows what will happen as we continue this good work. But yeah, I just really think that that's something important, right? That, we need people to continue the work through a lifetime, and hopefully they can level up and be champions, more than just allies, but champions. Because we need champions, we need guardians, right? We need people that really are here to body and soul be a part of the community in solidarity and love, right? Because they recognize the liberation that we all seek, is really tied up in each other's liberation, all of our liberation. So I think I'll end there, right, in words of love and solidarity and kind of a sense of the bigger picture too. We're talking about our family relationships and those individual supports and, chosen families and stuff. And then there's these really long historic trends, trajectories, whatever we're a part of, and the good work that, is still needed. And so it's all a part of that kind of movement forward towards harmony and maybe even peace on earth, who knows? But I'll leave it there just in case Chris or Sydney has anything to share. And thank you so much for your time and being here to do this. And I hope people really enjoy the conversation and perhaps join in, share their own thoughts and what works for them and what's best for them and what it means to them to have a chosen family. Thanks so much.
I'll pop in here. Given that we are talking about Family Day, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't share how important trans wellness is. It is a family, it is a community that provides support to those who are queer and trans with lots of programming, and it also provides support for parents and allies. We have a wonderful parent peer mentor who can meet with parents and help them talk through some of those feelings that we have and challenges that we face, so that we don't have to impose that on our queer and trans loved ones. We have the Affirm group, where we actually spent some time in our last gathering talking about Family Day and Valentine's Day and the implications for our queer and trans loved ones, and how we can better support. And one of the things we talked about was representation. The notion that, there's not a lot out there right yet, but what would it look like to take those Hallmark movies and acknowledge the beauty of queer and trans relationships, instead of just always having heterosexual relationships, to have quality, loving representation of people who are queer and trans. So we realize this is something normal, it's something incredible, it's something beautiful, and we should all have queer and trans friends because they bring so much to life. And Family Day, I hope you celebrate those that you know who are queer and trans, and just recognize that, hey, we are blessed because we've been gifted to have these people in our lives who teach us so much, who help us to grow and create spaces for us to realize that self-understanding is a journey. It's something that happens to all of us in some way or another. And how much more can we learn about ourselves when we see the growth and the change and the learning of others? It's a real gift. And I can't say enough about the gift of the trans wellness family and what it provides for the trans, queer, and allied community and all their families. So Sydney, you want to wrap us up?
Absolutely. So just to touch on a couple of things Chris was talking about in terms of the resources Trans Wellness offers, we have that faith support. So for folks who are looking to explore what it means to be queer, trans, and allied in the context of faith, that's what Chris, our chaplain, is for. And we also have a group for that, Queerly Beloved, a social drop-in space for folks who are, people of faith, who are spiritual, who are looking to explore what that means in the context of being queer, trans, and allied. And we have our lovely parent peer mentor, somebody with lived experience in raising a trans individual who can provide support in navigating some of the joys and challenges that come with having a trans and queer loved one. And then, of course, Affirm supportive parents and family group, which is for many parents of trans and queer folks to join together and to support one another in that community space. As well, for those of you who want to join us on Family Day, we have our Chosen Family Drop-In Monday, February 21st from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. And basically, this is just an opportunity for folks to gather on Family Day, to talk about the nature of chosen families, and to explore what healthy supportive relationships look like, and to support one another through this chosen family drop-in. So all information about all of these services and this event is available on our website, www.transwellness.ca. We are here for you. We are here for the youth, for the adults who are exploring their gender, and we're here for families who are looking to support their trans and queer loved ones throughout this whole process. So I want to thank everybody so much for joining us today, for, being part of this amazing conversation, and just really inviting this to be a deeper conversation, because this is not just a one-time thing. It's continually something we're all working towards. We're all working to understand what it means to be trans and queer and allies within this world, and to really explore how we can support one another and to create those spaces for chosen family, to create those community spaces of affirmation and love. So we thank you folks for joining us today, and we hope that you have a gentle and wonderful family day in whatever makes sense for you. So take care, everybody. Thank you so much.
Ta-ta for now.